Hey folks, Azoth Legacy here, and how are you doing? It's been a while, isn't it? I've been away from YouTube for a few months now, and it really feels like an eternity. I've uploaded 2 trailer analyses for Pokémon Legends Arceus, and even before I had the chance to play the actual game, the Pokémon Company decided to announce the 9th generation, releasing the announcement trailer for Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet, both coming to us later this year. I bet no one expected Gen 9 to come this early, but here we are. It's sad because I would have loved to record my reaction to this trailer, cause that would have turned out to be pretty funny. For the entirety of it, I was like, wait, what? Why is it Galar again? What the fuck are these? And so on. Going on. I don't know if it is me or not, but I'm starting to get a bit annoyed by the sheer amount of Pokémon games the Pokémon Company is putting out. I mean, it was only a few months ago that we got the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Now we have another huge mainline game with Pokémon Legends Arceus, and we know we're going to get another open world mainline game later this year. Isn't it too much? Yeah, the majority of you will say, what are you complaining about? The more, the merrier, right? Well, yes and no. Look, I have loved Pokémon for many years, and all I want is for this franchise to thrive, cause if Pokémon has one thing, that thing is the potential to be so cool you cannot even imagine. But I can't deny the fact that Pokémon games nowadays have been made following some quite discutable choices, to say the least. Look, I don't want to list them all. If you have some critical abilities, you'll immediately get what I'm talking about. And in my opinion, all the quote mistakes in the newer games are a product of lack of time, at least for a major part. Beside all this ranting on Pokémon's choices, I must admit that Scarlet and Violet seem really interesting. For starters, the big news. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are going to be completely open-world games. As stated by the official website, Pokémon is taking a big but necessary evolutionary step, and it's about time. The Gen 8 games, Sword and Shield, with the wild areas, the DLCs Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra, plus Pokémon Legends Arceus and its open macro areas, gave us the first hints of an open-world Pokémon game. I'm gonna be honest, I'm really happy to finally see a fully fledged 3D open-world Pokémon game. It has been way too much time for Game Freak to catch up with the rest of the industry, but in the end, after all this time, it seems we'll get what we've been asking for. So before going on and start analyzing the announcement trailer, I'd like to share my personal hot take on the new game's logos. They suck. Well, now that we're done with it, let's roll the tape and see what's happening inside Game Freak's department. As the trailer begins, we see a security guard doing a nighttime inspection inside Game Freak's headquarters. Then, a little shadow, presumably a Pokémon, enters Game Freak's offices, which emanate a strong red and violet light, drawing the guard's attention. Frightened, the guard enters the room, and all we see is clutter, lamps, artifacts, ancient and new, books, furniture, and some other random objects here and there. We immediately understand how important the role of light is. Everything here has been studied and placed in a very specific way. From the guard's torch through the dark scenes, to the blinding lights and all the lamps inside the final room. Game Freak wants to tell us something here, and the 2 new titles' names are the keys to unveil this mystery. Scarlet and Violet stands for red and violet, the endpoints of the visible spectrum. But what is that? To make it short, the visible spectrum is that part of the electromagnetic spectrum that is visible to the human eye. Some electromagnetic radiations within a specific wavelength range are visible and they make the visible light, or simply light. Once an object's color is reflected into our eyes after being exposed to light, we are able to define that color. As a norm, the human eye will respond to wavelengths from about 380 to about 750 nanometers, approximately 400–419 terahertz. But these boundaries are not defined and may vary based on the subject. So yes, even if at a first glance they might have tricked you, Scarlet and Violet are opposites, and the legacy of opposite titles is not broken yet. But here's my question: why the light team? And most importantly, why again? If you played Sun and Moon and/or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in 2016 and in 2017, you might remember that these games' main stories were deeply focused on the theme of light. Azoth Legacy's second hot take of the video. I think these games are some of the best Pokémon games ever made, and if you didn't play them, you definitely should do it as soon as possible. Some say Scarlet and Violet are the Pokémon stars that never were. If you remember, in late 2016, Eurogamer reported that multiple sources told them about Pokémon Sun and Moon sequel project, codenamed Pokémon Stars, to be released in late 2017. The new title should have been released for the new, at the time, Nintendo Switch system, but in the end, plans changed. The project got dismissed, and as you know, we got Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon on the 3DS, the last Pokémon main title on that console. To make it short, I think that Game Freak didn't want this project to go to waste. It is highly possible that they picked up the fragments of that old project, and this can be the reason why it immediately reminds of Pokémon Sun and Moon. In addition to that, some people say that Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet are going to be the new soft reboot titles for the mainline series, and from a certain point of view, I agree with this statement. First things first, it's important to notice the return of color-based titles. Pokémon started publishing games with colors titles and stopped with the third generation, where precious gemstones took colors place instead. Black and White, and also the second-gen remakes, if you will, restarted the old custom and set themselves as soft reboots of the series, introducing new ways to play and a massive number of new Pokémon, 151 to be specific, which is the same amount of Pokémon the first generation introduced back in the day. Having said that, Scarlet and Violet, with their completely three-dimensional open-world environment and seamless battles, seem to stand up as the two new soft reboots of the Pokémon game series, foregoers of a new era. But now let's return for a while to the announcement trailer itself, and let's start analyzing it, because we got some really interesting stuff to look at. Starting with the objects on the left, we can see some books, some lamps, a luggage, and what seems to be a lunar model. Well, this last is really interesting, especially when on the opposite side of the room there's a globe. Okay, I don't want to be the one who sees too much into it, but is this a hint towards space exploration? Given the fact that this game may have been born from the ashes of Pokémon Stars, this might make sense. And of course, I'm not talking about going places around the universe with our flaming hot Pokémon spaceship, but something like a new and more expanded version of the Ultra Warp Ride. This would also explain the presence of a luggage as a symbol of travel. By the way, if you look closely at this shot, the second before the game's logos appear on the screen, you can see the dots and the circle of the special effects animate into something similar to a solar system, with the dots depicting the little planets and the circles as their orbits. It seems that everything is hinting towards the space and light theme, don't you think? Well, if this ends up to be true, this might be the best Pokémon game already. If you were a kid like me during the Ruby and Sapphire era and spent days trying to figure out how to launch the spaceship in Moss Deep City to capture Jirachi and Deoxys, this might be our chance to actually do it. I'm joking, of course, let's. Anyway, on top of the cabinet we see this frame logo here. We don't know what is it yet and what it represents, but for me, if it is here, specifically on the left half of the room, it has to be linked with space. Is it the logo of the space agency in this region? Maybe this giant white building will be the Spatial Research Laboratory building, who knows? Another note to add is the strange alien-looking building found at 1 minute and 46 seconds in the trailer. We don't know what is it, but I think it will be linked to the space theme. If you know something more about that, do not hesitate to write it down in the comments. Something I know is that the big city we've seen in the trailer lies a few steps below and blends very well with the surrounding nature, save for the white building that stands on its own on the top of the hill. In fact, the two doesn't coexist well together, and possibly this is going to be the main topic of this game's story. Looking at the two logos, the Scarlet one, with its more classic and sumptuous diamond texture, puts a heavy contrast with the most simple and modern, and if you will, advanced Violet Scarlet one, and it's possible that the conflict between modernity and tradition will be a prevalent topic in these games. One thing that immediately caught my attention amidst all was the spiderweb symbol with a little triangle coming out of it and another little element on the bottom. I'm gonna be honest, I don't completely understand what this logo is and what it might represent, but it appears to be very prevalent in this close-up, so it must be relevant to the plot of the story or so. If you know something or have a cool idea to share about this, let me know in the comment section. It will be so cool to hear what you think about it. As it is for now, it can be literally anything. The first thing I thought about was this being the logo of the new evil team that operates in this region, or a crest of an important family or organization. There is a cool fact to point out though. Looking at this logo and the starred one from earlier, it's clear that the spiderweb looking one makes me think of something old, forgotten and ready to be discovered again, like history and traditions, while the other one, the exact opposite, seem to represent change, innovation and movement. Could this be the case of two opposite groups of people, like it was in Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, fighting each other for the prevalence of one ideal? Moving on, I'd like to bring your attention to this pinboard full of notes, maps, architectural sketches, measuring tools, a compass, and some wooden brushes. As you can see from this shot, there is a map of the Iberian Peninsula hanging in the center, and from the map seen inside the protagonist's room, it's safe to say the region is based on real-life Iberian Peninsula, Spain, Portugal, and the Balearic Islands. Just take a look at it. It is literally a carbon copy of the real thing, islands included. Wow, Game Freak really let their imagination run wild, isn't it? We also see a treasure chest full of gold coins and other precious objects. This might be another symbol pointing to Spain, for its past nautical importance and history of colonization. As a matter of fact, looking at this game's peculiar areas, locations, cities and villages, it's not hard to get the European style and the Mediterranean vibe at all. Everything here screams Spain, from the painting inside the main character's home, which represent a Sevillanas dancer, to the huge castle found inside the big city's walls, too suspiciously similar to the Sagrada Familia, which from what some people say on the internet, may host the region's Pokémon League. I don't know if you noticed it, but it has a huge tree growing on one of its sides, and on the opposite one you can see something similar to a space observatory, preceded by a railed path. This has to be a really important place for the story of the games, because multiple maps of its structure are scattered all over the room from the beginning of the trailer. We don't know what is it for and why, but the special theme keeps returning back, so I bet something huge may be lying under that place. I truly hope this building will be completely explorable, and hope with all my heart that this won't turn like Hammerlock's castle. I remember looking at it for the first time in the trailers and started daydreaming about how many chambers and secrets it must have had inside it, all them for us to discover, and next, the disappointment after knowing that we weren't allowed to enter, not only in the castle, but also the big cathedral too. Anyway, the Great Rainbow Square and the Great Staircase near it clearly draw inspiration from Anthony Gaudi's Park Well. In conclusion, I really like the European and Mediterranean aesthetic. As a Mediterranean European myself, I find it really well done and quite similar to real life. What I can say though is that I'm getting a bit annoyed at yet another European-based region. Like, it would be so awesome to see a Pokémon region based on Africa, Central Asia or on the Middle East. It's a shame, but let's hold on to hope for the next game. Nonetheless, everything here is quite charming, like the character's villa. This house is simply adorable, placed on the cliff's edge, with the sea as far as the eye can see under it. So soothing I might cry. In the garden, as in the big city, we see orange trees. Taking a look at this shot, we see a bowl full of oranges and grapes. These are the same fruits carved on the two shields hanging on the right and on the left side of this door. The first has a sliced orange at its center and something similar to a ship rudder at its bottom. Perhaps all the ship ropes and equipment scattered around the room could be linked to this. The second one seems to have just a cluster of grapes. Aside from the fact that, yeah, oranges are orange or red colored and may be the fruit found in Scarlet version, while grapes are violet and they are more likely to be found in Violet version. Why are these fruits there? As you may know, Spain is heavily linked to both oranges and grapes, as this country is not only the largest largest orange producer, but also one of the leading countries in wine production in Europe. Both oranges and grapes grow extraordinarily well in this area, as they benefit from the Mediterranean warm weather, essential for their growth. A cool fact about grapes is the Spanish tradition of the 12 grapes, which consists of eating a grape for each month of the year at midnight of December 21st to grant good fortune for the new year. In conclusion, we can say oranges and grapes are very important fruits in Spain, and for these reasons they will also become the symbols of something we don't really know yet. As we can see here, they are embroidered on the main characters' clothes. By looking at their outfits, it's safe to say these symbols represent different schools, as they are clearly dressed in school uniforms, and they'll change between the orange and the violet one depending on which version you're going to choose. If this ends up being true, it is possible that these two schools are going to be rivals, one teaching with a heavy historic approach and the other with a scientific one. And so, the character we are going to pick will be from the other school we didn't choose, and of course will be our rival in the research field. Because if there are schools, why won't there be research tasks to complete, like the ones from Pokémon Legends Arceus? Personally, I like neither of the outfits and don't know which game I'm going to pick. I really like history and old things rather than sci-fi and technology, and if what I said before will be true, I linger more toward this kind of stuff. And I want to point out that these are only personal speculation, but looking at the two logos, I feel like Pokémon Scarlet Mascot Legendary will be more in line with my actual personal tastes, rather than the Violet one. I feel like the Violet one will be very slender, agile and psychic looking, when I prefer bigger, bulkier and stoic Pokémon the most. Anyway, a thing that everyone noticed is the fact that the protagonist characters seem way much younger than all the others we played as in the past years. From their appearance, it is hard to say they're even 10, and most important of all, they look different. Yeah, looking at them, you don't think about Pokémon. I mean, the official artworks are incredible and really cute, but the 3D models are very anonymous, and the Pokémon aesthetic features that work so well in every other game are gone. To me, it is like looking at a character from a generic 3D kit game that has been found lying on the ground for a decade under the video game shelf of an old town mall. If it wasn't clear, I don't like them. They're kind of weird and creepy. What really bugs me are the disturbing doll eyes and their hollow expression. As I said before, they don't look like Pokémon characters in the first place. They're inexpressive, bland, and not what we've been used to from Pokémon. They're just wrong. But that's just me. Tell me what you think about the new characters and the 3D models, and while you're there, tell me which game version you're going to choose. Let me know in the comments below. I can't wait to see all your answers. Now, let's go back to the pinboard and take a look at this image right here. I don't know what it may or may not represent, but it seems to be composed of multiple color triangles, and its meaning is still unknown. What's cool to point out though is the solar panel image pinned on the right, and find the actual panels in the game in this shot. As Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are deeply focused on the light theme and its colors, it is cool to see something like that to make the world building more realistic and actually well thought out. I know, it's a small thing, but to me it is very important to see things like this that are taken seriously. But for me, the most interesting things are all the objects we find on top of the desk on the pinboard's left. This chaotic and messy desk is completely covered with strange objects. Minerals, like the desert rose, the big amber gemstone, magnifying glass, beakers and glass vials. All of this makes me think of a region filled with mines, tunnels, scientists, more specifically mineralogists, and meteorites. I don't believe there will be an underground feature like it was in Gen 4, but it's not impossible to think that a similar feature with a twist will make it to the game. The minerals and gemstones we see on the desk must have some meaning. They need to be hinting towards something. In the Galar region, wishing pieces and wishing stars are stone-like pieces of Eternatus' body, which get off the main structure in unknown circumstances and fall from the sky. These items were relevant due to their energetic properties to the Sword and Shield plot, since they were needed to feed Eternatus for it to gain its full powers and start a second Darkest Day. I believe something similar could be happening in the new region. Perhaps humans might have discovered a special mineral deep in the ground that has the power to solve an imminent energetic crisis, and so it has been mined extensively, but they had to stop because their greed for the mineral has awakened a dormant, legendary evil Pokémon found in the deepest layers of the earth. Threatened by this ancient being, people started fighting back, but with numerous losses. The whole world is now in danger, and it has to be you who can finally put an end to this meaningless conflict, restoring the balance between progress and tradition. Wow, I didn't expect to write down a more cohesive and strong plot than the one of Sword and Shield in less than 5 minutes. Then the door shuts and everything starts to tremble. The book's pages flip backwards, clocks start spinning out of control, and lights go flashing repeatedly. All of these elements may be hints pointing out to the time and space instability and consequently be significant themes of Scarlet and Violet plot. Yeah, I know, I'm a sucker for this. Time and space are always my go-to answers, but if I can't explain something happening in the Pokémon world, it has to be time and space doing tricks, right? Please note that these are all conjectures, and I know what I'm saying won't end up being true, but I'm here to have fun. And if I come up with a really cool idea, I'm not going to keep it to myself. Having said that, let's enter the world of Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet. I'm going to be honest with you, even if the locations and open spaces we've seen in the trailer are far away from being considered technically good, I really like the variety of the environments, the overall better quality of texture and 3D modeling, especially Pokémon's textures. Pokémon Legends Arceus introduced Pokémon's textures in mainline games, but made the huge mistake of using cel-shaded 3D models combined with, in my opinion, a poor lighting system that completely ruined the wanted effect. On the other hand, Scarlet and Violet seems to handle better lighting effects, making the most of these textures, enhancing the way they stand out. Lighting and reflection are softer, clearer and less disruptive than whatever that was in Pokémon Legends Arceus. This is pretty evident if we look at Lucario's fur, Magnemite's metallic reflection on Seviper's scales, and on Sojourner's stone texture. Looking at these shots, I can't help but think of all the excuses Game Freak gave for the cut in Sword and Shield national decks. To be clear, I wasn't a #neckdexer at the time. I couldn't care less about it, but I was definitely not convinced by the reasons Game Freak tried to tell us for cutting half Pokédex off. I always found that really unprofessional and a big mistake on their part. But now, I wouldn't mind the Pokédex being limited if Pokémon looked this good. What's your opinion on this? Do you agree with me, or do you think Game Freak is lazy and should do more for their fans? Another cool thing I want to add is those ruins we've seen in the desert section of the trailer. Those ruins appear to be very ancient, and for what we know at the moment, they can definitely have connections with a past civilization that inhabited the region a long time ago. They immediately reminded me of the other tower we saw in the trailer. This one, new and modern, may share the same purpose as the ancient one. We know that Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are going to be completely 3D open world games, and we expect the game map to be very large, not like the one in Breath of the Wild, but a decent half will be more than what it needs to be. Take Breath of the Wild for example. Every region in the game has a tower that needs to be activated in order to unlock complete access to that region's information. What if the towers we've seen in the trailer have the same function as the towers in Breath of the Wild? As many things we don't know yet, but I will place my bets on that. Then I want you to notice that strange mosaic we saw earlier under the staircase that leads to the big rainbow plaza. It totally resembles a wind rose. If so, it may be linked in one way or another to the nautical equipment we saw before in the room. A similar symbol with 6 endpoints is found on the Japanese games logos, and from what we know, every new gimmick we had in the past is their symbols on the game's title. Just think of Mega Evolution Pokémon X and Y, Z-moves in Sun and Moon, and Dynamax in Sword and Shield. But what the hell is this? While writing the script for this video, I tried to find answers to this enigma. I looked for anything similar that has been shown in the trailer, but found nothing else than the Great Rainbow Plaza and its 12 endpoints. I can't say the symbols seem to be related though, and the only thing I came up with is that the central plaza may be a monument to the sun and its light rays, the most important light source we have, essential for life on Earth and for letting us see things and colors. Even with all these conjectures, I can find the meaning of the wind overgrow symbol, and as a result I can't say what it resembles, nor what mechanic it's hinting towards. Guess we'll have to wait to find out. In this scene, we see the 3 Switch consoles framed all at once. I wonder if this may be a hint for a new and deep multiplayer mechanic, or it is only me and I'm making this all up because I'm a hype boy. As all of you know, the multiplayer aspect of every Pokémon game has always been lacking, to say the least. Frame drops and sudden disconnections were only the tip of the iceberg. I hope that this time Game Freak has acknowledged the issue and will set up a proper multiplayer system that can justify the subscription to the Nintendo Switch Online membership. At last, it's time to talk about the starters. Meet Sprigatito, the grass cat Pokémon, Fuecoco, the fire croc Pokémon, and Quaxly, the duckling Pokémon. I really wish I recorded my reaction because at the first glance I was like, what are those? What the fuck are those? They're so bad, not even a Fakemon would be so bad, but with some time I got used to them and now I really like them all. But that's Sprigatito, they must be doing something for that cat's eye. Jesus Christ, it might fall off at any moment. They all have the same abilities started Pokémon have, namely Overgrow, Blaze and Torrent. Their names are really cute and funny. Sprigatito seems to be a combination of the word spring and the Spanish word for little cat, gatito. Fuecoco seems to be the union of the Spanish word for fire, fueco, and the diminutive for crocodile, coco. It has been brought to my attention that Fuecoco's design resembles a famous Spanish dish that consists of 2 kilo peppers stuffed with goat cheese. The resemblance is pretty evident, with Fuecoco's body being the pepper, its fur being the stem, and its white face being the goat cheese. Now, conscious of its origins, I don't know if I like it more or if I have to fear what this thing is going to turn into when evolving. Like, seriously, what the heck? Quaxly's design may recall the appearance of a soldier, but knowing that the region we're in is based on Spain, its pose and head details immediately remind me of a bullfighter or a matador. Just look at it. Picture Quaxly holding a red cloth and it's done. I really hope I'm wrong with this because all I ever wanted was a steel and water type warship commander as a final evolution, not an elegant bullfighter guy. Its name though, it seems to be the union of the onomatopoeia of the sound ducks do and the word sparkly. As I said, they're all cute and solid designs, but if I had to choose now, I think I'd pick the Firestarter Fuecoco. I don't know. The possibility of what this thing is going to evolve into scares me to death, but I really want to give this derpy looking friend-shaped mon a chance anyway. Now, it's your turn. Tell me which starter are you going to choose and why. And so we arrived at the conclusion of this video. The analysis of the announcement trailer for Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet comes to its end. I wouldn't believe if you told me some weeks ago that we'd get the 9th generation within this year, but here we are, I guess. To be honest, I kind of hate this trend to release a new Pokémon game every year, and even if you don't agree with me, this whole situation is sad. We don't need so many games. Like, we can't even keep up with this pace, but what do I know? Nowadays, the baddest a Pokémon game is, the more it sells. Yeah, if you're wondering, I'm still salty for buying this garbage of remakes. So this is it, folks. Again, thank you for watching this video. Extra gratitude goes to all those who watched the entire thing until the end and are so patient with me for rambling about Pokémon in this cursed version of English I crafted myself. I hope to be more inspired in the future and bring more content on this channel, but all the spoilers and the hustle for clicks of many YouTube users really put me down in a bad way. I guess I'll never get people, and that's okay. If you like this video, please leave a comment and tell me what you think about these new games. Let's start conversation in the comment section below. There are more videos on this channel, go see them if you want. Okay, that's all. Bye!